different but similar, from high-stakes environments to the beautiful chaos of civilian life. This is Catalyst Comms, anything and everything. Supervision not included.
Let's do it then, man. Dan, you think what I'm thinking?
Then we duct tape 3 broken Linux laptops together. We can harvest enough static electricity to launch a lawnmower into low Earth orbit.
That is an amazing accent. No, Dan. Though, honestly, write that down for later, because we might do that. But what are we doing tonight?
Intercepted rogue microwave signals from the I fucked that up. Intercepted rogue microwave signals from the break room vending machine to finally map out the ultimate satellite defense. See, you took the joke and you made it too tactical.
You wrote this.
I didn't write that.
I didn't write that.
I didn't write that.
All right, I wrote it.
This is why you don't write the intro.
All right, we're going to have to change this and use smaller 4-letter words. Hey, no, we're doing a podcast with Bryan tonight. Let's go.
Welcome back to Catalyst Comms, anything and everything where we dig into real people's stories. Today we are joined by a real pioneer, Bryan
Torielli. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's season 2, episode 4, where we're digging into discovery of a talent and using it to grow a career, followed by an entrepreneurial pivot. Bryan, you and I have known each other since pretty much when I walked in the door at Deloitte, so we worked together for quite some time. I've been a friend. I've drank whiskey in your garage, met all your family. So how's it going, man?
It's going, man. It's going great.
Yeah.
Living life, staying busy.
Yeah, love to hear that. I'm trying to stay busy myself. I'll leave it at that. Hey, let's get after it, man. You ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Hey, since Phil fucked up my intro, I'm going to give you 5 seconds extra.
Big words.
Let's start with a 65-second high-level elevator pitch of who Bryan is. Bryan, I turn the mic over to you, sir.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm Bryan Torielli. I live to solve problems that other people say can't be solved, and I chase every shiny object that is technology related, anywhere, anything, but I'm particularly focused on anything space related and providing opportunities for the space community to gain access to technology that is generally locked behind very expensive paywalls. So I'm here to make a difference in space.
Read, I see. Yeah, so hey, real quick, let's go way back because I wanna get at your story a little bit deeper first before the audience kind of gets into the techie nerdy stuff that I love, and Dan will probably fall asleep on us, but it's okay. Hey, growing up with a lead machinist father in Wisconsin, how much of that hands-on problem-solving mindset influenced your approach to technology today?
Gosh, basically all of it, to be honest. I spent weekends at the machine shop. I learned how to weld when I was about 8. I learned how to drive forklifts when I was about 10, even though I didn't actually get forklift certified until I was 17. I did small engines, big engines, car maintenance, boat maintenance, all the things with my dad. We had the manuals for all the inboard boat motors, so I spent a lot of time wrenching when I was younger, and I absolutely loved every moment of it.
So did you have an erector set? That's the question. I'm going to show your age.
I had Lincoln Logs.
Well, Lincoln Logs predates erector set, I believe.
Yes, it does.
So erector set was the more metal wrenchy type stuff. I was big into that.
Yeah, but Lincoln Logs were better.
They were. I could build some cool stuff.
Limitless potential.
Exactly.
So, Bryan, you mentioned skipping classes out of boredom in high school. Not too far from what I did. The difference was I went surfing. But then you excelled at the Milwaukee School of Engineering. What changed for you when you hit college?
The work was actually kind of difficult. When I was in high school, I just slept a lot because it was really easy and I kind of didn't care. And so I would just kind of do whatever I wanted. When I got to college, I realized that I actually didn't know everything. Which was kind of a pivot for me. So I actually had to pay attention and actually go to class. I'm not going to say I was always sober when I went to class, but I was always there. And that's what mattered in college.
Yeah, I think the same thing for me. I kind of coasted through high school. I would even say I coasted through my undergrad degree. If I would have taken a harder one, I'm sure I would have felt the same thing. But going through Old Dominion, and my son said this too, is it felt like an extension of high school. And I don't mean that to diminish anything that Old Dominion's putting out there because they've got good degrees. But the mechanism by which they taught, I think, was so similar to high school. You know, show you the information, have you repeat the information, test you on the information. And I didn't find memorization and that type of thing, regurgitation of what details they gave me. was hard. So when I went to get my master's degree, however, though, I think I felt the same damn thing you did. Is I actually thought I was going to fail out. There was kids running circles around me. The way they taught was to give you a set of 5 questions, tell you got 2 weeks, go get it done, and didn't teach me anything. There was no notes, no sitting in class, maybe some questions and answers, but realistically, it was all about learning to learn, and that was a novel experience for me. So that's where it kicked in for me. But
I'm definitely with you there. It was a lot of go work on this project to go
yeah,
figure it out. And I
yeah,
would hang out in the open areas and I would feel dumb because the other kid next to me was doing like margined stock trading
yeah.
and like making money on options. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. But cool story, bro. I'm just gonna put my head down and work on this thing that I don't understand now.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, truth in lending, I learned command line scripting, assembly language, Linux. I learned how to do a lot of the hacking scripts for one of my classes, all because of exactly that is like, here, go figure it the fuck out. I'm like, uh, I faked the funk. Now you're calling my bluff.
Yep.
No, I mean, in state was if you're able to learn, and I say it that way, it emulates what the real world is because you don't get a boss that comes in and says, here's the steps. I want you to do this and this and this and this. They're like, I need you to go do this. And you as an adult now are in that position to have to go figure it the fuck out. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, the only thing Phil didn't learn was to quit talking.
Whatever. Hey, so maybe kind of extending on the family side of the story, you had a best friend that worked for the trash collection. And he used to bring you discarded computers that you rebuilt using Linux and Fedora. What did taking apart dead machines teach you that traditional school couldn't?
That static electricity is bad for computer components. We'll start with that one. That
Oops.
people that throw away computers generally don't wipe the information before they throw away the computers. And that Microsoft was expensive when I didn't have a job. And that Linux was free. So it was really great, even though downloading it over my dial-up connection was really not as great. So I mean, like you, I taught myself Bash. I taught myself how to do scripting, everything to make a Linux operating system work. And it was all about being semi-entrepreneurial, actually. I take all these computers, take 5, build one really good one to give back to the man, sell another one, sell another 2, keep one for my personal home lab. I think I had about 20 computers at one point when I was probably like 12 or 14 years old.
Nice. Did you do anything with video games back then?
Oh, I played a lot of video games back
Not
then.
just play. Did you ever build slash design anything? I took my hand a couple times in basic just to play around, but
No, I never tried to build. But way back in the day in high school, I was playing America's Army, the Army sponsored shooter video game, and I was a Monster Energy sponsored video gamer for video game tournaments from my house. It was like my setup was so bad. I had a folding table in my parents' unfinished basement with a fridge next to me with a microwave on top of it, and I lived off of energy drinks and pizza rolls all summer.
and I lived next to Steve Wozniak garage.
It was bad. I mean, I would make like $500 for playing a video game
Yeah.
tournament. It was pretty cool when I was like 16.
Yeah, I'll take that over working in Jack in the Box any day.
Yeah. So our viewers are tracking because they still do this day. That's how the Army recruits. That's part of the recruiting. To
Yeah.
this day, they actually have a setup at U of L, to help with that and everything else. And, and it's so everyone's tracking. It's not your capabilities to shoot and everything else, is to get you interested in the idea of it and do the recruiting. So it's pretty funny you brought that up.
Now they actually still use the virtual ranges too. It's pretty awesome.
No, they use them, but I mean, the whole point is, it's part of their Go Army
So yeah, the
recruiting.
recruiting side, yeah, I can
Yeah,
totally-
It was big
it's-
time recruiting.
yeah,
It was
it-
effective.
Yeah, and trust me, they still do it to this day. So, Brian, what was the most important lesson you learned, from frontline troubleshooting, digging the dumpster, building these computers early in your career that still applies to space systems today?
Yeah, your new nickname is Dumpster Diver, by the way.
I mean, I can take that one.
Well, that goes along with penetration testing if you want to look at Red Team, because
Yeah,
you do
fair.
have dumpster diving.
Fair.
The coolest thing that working on all those computers like 15, 20, 30 years ago has taught me is that space is ancient.
Yeah.
Most of the space systems that I do anything on today are actually operating on systems that are 15 to 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, even a new satellite today is using 5 to 7 year old technology. So the vulnerabilities that existed 15 to 20 years ago in terrestrial IT are prevalent on space systems.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you log into a satellite over a comm link, you don't use a username and a password.
Yep.
As long as you know the encryption key, you are root. You are in charge of this computer, right? You can do anything. And every other payload listens to you because you're the admin of everything in that satellite.
Yep.
It's kind of scary that that's how things in space operate today. So, I mean, all the things that I used to do are oddly relevant to today's space landscape, which is, for me, it's excellent.
So,
Yeah.
hey, I should ask. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
I mean,
Anyways, what I wanted to ask Ryan was,
you full robe.
I should have asked this question a minute ago because let's set the age. Commodore 64.
No.
Really?
Nope.
ColecoVision.
Nope.
Television.
Television.
Never
Tube.
dealt with even using a cassette back in the day for storage. It took like 30 minutes to even, I don't know, run 5 minutes worth of stuff. Nothing.
Nope. No, I had when I started, the hard drives were already 32 to 64 megabytes in size.
So no floppy disk.
I used floppies, but only the small floppies, not the big floppies.
Not the big ones.
Not the 3.5. Yeah.
Man,
It's like a half a generation behind us.
Roger that. Just checking.
I will go back to your comments about space. I mean, I kind of made those comments while in the military, working for Space Force and others. And actually with the Navy, because I had a portfolio under me for the comm side of the house, and they did the same thing. Did the same thing. They did what you just described. It was that there was so much confidence that space was untouchable, I believe. And I'm going to say it that way because I believe I wasn't in anybody's mind when they made the decisions, but they chose not to do the encryption. They chose not, the links between satellite and ground were not encrypted. The biggest worry they had was jamming, overpowering, side lobes or some of the RF signal. But really didn't go down too deep into this high level encryption. Although, yes, GPS has some of that, the mil encryption standards, but it kind of reminded me of cyber in general because and this predates you a little bit, Brian, but when we started implementing cyber, it was always an afterthought instead of building it in. And I think we did the same thing in the satellite world is we thought of it as an afterthought because we were worried about costs for one. And then on top of that, we're like that space. Who the hell is going to be up at 36,000 whatever feet or higher? Nobody's going to be out there. And now we're like, oh shit. Look, there's threats, robotic arms, RF signals, bad guys. So it is
that radio we used to talk to. It's a vector. I never would have thought about that.
Interesting. But I mean, and maybe to extend this out on a different note, we start talking about old antiquated languages that some of these satellites are running on their software. So, and I know you're well aware of this, having to go back and refactor code, and maybe if it has the capability, trying to do a software change on the system. Most of them older ones probably don't have the capability to do that. So they're up there existing on some level of C programming that is very vulnerable and didn't have cyber as a consideration. So, and we'll get into some of that stuff in a bit. But hey, so as your wife, Camille, served in the Air Force, you kind of followed her along. You're welcome for having to follow the military life. We loved it. We loved that we get to punish people like that. But you moved to bases like Goodfellow and Wright-Patterson. How did navigating those relocations shape your early IT career?
Oh man, it was tough. I mean, when we left Wisconsin, I'm Wisconsin born and raised, right? It's
Wisconsin.
The summers.
I know I got those 70 shows going through my head.
I had to say it.
Yep. It was 70 to 80 during the summers, kind of high humidity, right? I was working for SC Johnson. I was in the global IT department. So Windex, Ziploc, good stuff. We got orders to Goodfellow and it was 100 degrees or more for 100 days or more, 24 hours a day when we got there. And it was awful. I finished my contract with SC Johnson, and then I was like, the only IT architecture job here wanted to pay like $0. So I ended up as Best Buy's Geek Squad employee for a 230-mile radius, and I was driving out to ranches in my bug, and with guys with roll around kegerators on battery backups shooting things while I was fixing their computers. It paid the bills. It wasn't very glamorous. But I mean, a lot of my career has just been take a chance, go with the philosophy that fuck it, I can do anything. And like when we got to Red Pat, I was like, I'm going to be an IT network engineer. I'm going to do this now. I want to learn how telephony works. I'm going to reverse engineer systems. And then I took the chance to be a network engineer on the base. Best job. It was amazing. I got to drive a GOV, park on sidewalks, because when comms are down in a building, you park wherever you want so that you can get inside that building and fix comm.
Yep.
Because if some general doesn't have a phone,
Yeah.
apparently the world ends or something.
Yep.
So, I mean, that was great. I took chances. I ended up in NASIC doing reverse engineering of their IT infrastructure for one of the squadrons. Amazing. And every time we moved, it was just, I'm going to take a new chance. I'm going to learn something new. And I mean, the pivot into satellites happened at NASIC just off of a chance because I did everything they needed me to do. And they were like, well, since you're here, let's teach you how overhead persistent infrared satellite systems work. And then let's teach you how to write algorithms against OPIR data sets. Oh, you seem to get that. Let's learn how to build the sensor itself. And it just, I just keep doing something more and more challenging. And for me, it's great because I never want to be the smartest guy in the room. I just want to be learning from somebody else. So,
Yep.
I mean, that's my career. It's taking a chance.
Yep.
Well, I would say it's season. It sounds like season opportunities too. I mean, you didn't look at anything and go, woe is me. You were like, okay, whatever. What's next? Let's go. And you put your all into it, mastered it, and and it's helped you out every single time. Is what it sounds like. So.
Yeah, I do want to go back to one thing you said because this one's disturbing me pretty bad. How the fuck do you fit in a bug? So, for anybody that's ever met Bryan, he's massive. What are you, 6'5"?
I'm 6'4", yeah.
6'4". He's 6'4", and not a small guy either. And to see you, to imagine seeing you in a Volkswagen Bug, I don't agree. It's like a clown car.
It had a lot of headroom.
Whatever.
It also had the little flower pot in it too.
See, I just pictured the original Police Academy where he rips out the front seat and sits in the back seat.
That would be.
It drives the car.
I could see that. He roll the seat back. Bryan's getting in. I mean, hell, he got in my truck, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I need to roll the seat back, and the thing's big.
So, Bryan, while at NASIC, you were asked to reverse engineer their network for vulnerabilities, resulted in 24 security memos. What was the biggest eye-opener or most surprising weakness you found during that project?
Oh, there were so many dumb things we found. One of the ones that just kept coming back, and I'd hear about it every few years, is, they found the MTU size mismatch between the back end and the front end users again. And for some reason, they just didn't know why they were dropping 40% of their packets when the packets on this side thought they were 9,000, and the packets on this side thought they were 1,405. And just no one knew what was going on there. And like, why were they 1,405? I wrote so many memos about NASIC. I think the other best thing that ever happened was the ops network went down one day and everyone was freaking out. Like, what happened? And I went into the server room and I found the network admin and he was licking a fiber. He was like, well, it was dirty. And I'm fiber certified. And I was like, you are going to get glass particles in your tongue.
Your mouth.
It's like, this is not a safe thing. And he was like, nah, do what I want. I'm a genius. And like plugged it back in and magically the ops network came back up. He didn't tell anybody. He just took the whole thing down at like 10 in the morning by just pulling a fiber out.
I really don't know what to say right now. You can't fix stupid.
You can't fix stupid. Oh man, we had nicknames for all the IT guys back there.
Hey, so I'll share with you that actually may be a viable troubleshooting tactic, and here's why I would say that. When Dan and I worked over at NetWarcom, he was at NCDoc, I was at NetWarcom. Soon realized quickly that the Navy had not done their due diligence in mapping the entire network, the ground-based network out, which meant when we did things, we didn't know what we were dropping, and you couldn't map it. So you kind of had to do things like that, which was I'm pulling a plug. If somebody cries, then I'm gonna plug it back in, and now I know who they're hooked to. If I pull something out and I don't hear anybody cry, that can be removed.
So, Brian, I got
Fair.
to real quick just so we can, do a public correction. I was never an NC doc.
Whatever.
Norfolk. I would never
Nyack, yeah, sorry.
to be an NC doc.
Yeah.
But on a second
Fair.
note, I will tell you this: in doing stuff like that too, when you get a phone call because a real world predator feed just went down,
Mhm.
because no one thought about that, and again, we were, someone was mapping things out. It gets a lot of attention pretty quick.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had 700 users cut off immediately. And it was like, what the heck just happened?
Hey,
Just
so
like that.
yeah, moving over from NASIC, you kind of shifted. I think you became the liaison, if I remember the title correctly, to the National Reconnaissance Office NRO, and later the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency (NGA). You shifted focus to satellite engineering, specifically in collection management side. What was the steepest learning curve when transitioning from terrestrial IT to space systems in that case?
Realizing that the way we managed collections was an Excel spreadsheet that didn't even have weighted values, and that everything was the highest priority in the world, which to me meant nothing was the highest priority for anybody. It was it was chaos. It just turned into arbitrary decision making of, well, this seems like it's a higher priority than that, so I'm just going to make that one get the tasking. And writing software doesn't solve the fact that everyone puts everything in as a 10.
Yeah.
The human decision is required here. That was extremely challenging for me to feel like there was a chance I was missing an important mission set just because I had to make a decision. On the NRO side, um, realizing that when I was 25 years old and everyone else had an average age of over 60, that I was apparently an idiot. Um,
That's true today. Today still, when I walk in there, I have to like hide my eyes. Don't look me in the eyes. He's too smart for you.
I mean, but I've never worked anywhere that was like the NRO. I've never worked anywhere where the smartest guy in the room would say, "Hey, Brian, I want to teach you how to do this."
Yep.
And I'd be like, "Why would you want to teach me how to do that? Isn't that your job?" "Yeah, yeah, but I don't want to do it anymore, and I'm going to move on to the next new thing." And I was like, "Wait, you're going to enable me so you can tackle a new challenge?" And then they'd be like, "Yeah, and then someday when we get another new person, you can enable them so you can take on a new challenge." I was like, "We're growing here? This is amazing." Like, I've never been to a place that operated like that, and I take that management style with me. I mean, everywhere. Like, you worked with me at Deloitte. That's how I operated the team at Deloitte.
Yep.
It was, I don't want to do this. I want you to do it,
Yep.
and then I want you to train the next person to do it. I don't want anyone that just hits Y at, 11 a.m. every day because that's part of my job. I just hit the Y button on the keyboard and it does a thing. I hate that. And NRO taught me that I can learn here and I can flourish. And I mean, my mentor is right prior NRO. He's retired now. And every once in a while I call him, like when Deloitte wanted to get into PNT, and I was like, we're not doing PNT. And I called him into a meeting and I said, hey Bruce, how do you feel about me doing PNT? And he said, you're stupid when it comes to PNT. And I was like, and yet I'm the smartest guy in this company about it. We shouldn't do that. And then they did it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of off that same topic. How do you think AI is being leveraged right now to adjust things like prioritization schemas and whatnot for, in this case, intelligence agencies, but maybe in a broader sense, everybody?
I mean, my hope is for the better, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to collection management, I would hope that a properly tuned model understands the sensor's capability suite extremely well, understands its limits, its bounds, and is only tasking the highest priority things based on some weighted value. Maybe it's human life, maybe it's priority of target, and coming up with what I would hope is better decisions than we could make as humans in a reasonable amount of time. And maybe even doing retaskings mid-flight just because of a new priority that came in. Stuff that we just couldn't do as fast as humans. So I hope that's what it's doing for the IC side. When it comes to us outside regular people, it tells me how to meal plan. It's pretty good at that. And
He's done that.
It's a good use case.
Yeah.
I like to generate posters with Gemini, movie
yeah.
posters. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, see, this is interesting because of my background being an information warfare cryptologist. The ICQ community to me needs an overhaul, period. And I'm saying it because kind of what you were talking about, being on the other side of the actual collection, actual gathering, getting the stuff, and then watching the intel community jack it all up, not get it out properly. And I'm being honest with that. But don't get me wrong, there's some good people on that side, but most of the time they're too busy worried about everything you just said, how do I prioritize, how to do this. We come back in the thing and I gotta be the bad guy in the room going, yeah, that target's gone now.
Yeah.
Because you guys took 5 hours to do a PowerPoint.
Latency. Yeah.
Go impress the bosses and everything else, and well, we didn't know that. No, actually, it's right there in the reporting. You just focused on what was in front of you, not the whole reporting segment. And, now on the flip side, kind of what you're saying, I don't think AI will. So here's reality. So it depends on what it is and, what the mission or basically the overall shit. I'm trying not to use certain words. Basically, we'll go back to mission, using the mission and saying this is the impact I want. So again, like you said, life or something like that, it could be totally the opposite. Because if I want to send a team in there quiet and everything else, I just want to knock out some low hanging fruit to get things in, and stuff like that. So I hope AI never takes over that, or I hope leaders don't go, well, let's have the AI model run and figure out how to win this, or get in here and do this. So
now, if we use the AI model to speed up the PowerPoint Ranger's job, right? If you had the predetermined template and you just said, target at X location, update this slide, here's the information we know. And instead of taking 30 minutes to make that PowerPoint, that then takes 15 minutes to get reviewed, that then takes 20 minutes to get moved to a new network, right? If we could streamline that process, to me, that's an excellent use case.
Well, I would take it a step further, and I could totally get rid of that process because I already have that information usually in front of me to brief from. And I shouldn't be briefing to a slide just to make everyone, see the world of how happy, they'll be, oh, okay, now I understand it. No, I need to get the target.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
No,
there's always that disconnect.
Yeah.
As I'm kind of a firm believer in that, and that's actually some of the work we've done. Actually, because shouldn't be talking totally about that, but really is getting to the level of decision quality information.
Yeah.
I don't need to supplant the person. I need to get rid of the mundane things that are repetitive or something that a computer can do better at a higher speed.
Yeah.
And get that latency totally out of the process. And this goes for, whether it's a high level intel, we want to get a SAR image on something and turn it around into some decision quality piece of outcome, or simple stuff like, hey, I want to create PowerPoints. It's the same philosophy, just a different level of, difficulty maybe because of the problem set, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's shoot over to the Deloitte side of the house, because that's a little bit of the fun stuff that I think I got to witness you do. During your time at Deloitte, you pushed cloud native architectures and slashed costs by 90%, which I think we made as recommendations outside of Deloitte to the client at that time. How hard was it to convince traditional cyber teams to trust those cloud native approaches for high consequence work?
Surprisingly difficult, actually. IT guys, we love our on-prem stuff. I've got my server, I get it, and I don't want to move to cloud. There are ways, though, to use cloud. There are ways to use the containerization, like support systems in like an AWS, to do the same thing you're already doing on-prem, so much cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's transferable. So if you ever go back to on-prem, you just build a Kubernetes stack, migrate your containers, and you're good to go. You could move to GCP, AWS, Alibaba. It literally doesn't matter. And when we did it in such a way that it became this awesome self-healing code base. So like we would do demonstrations internally to Deloitte leadership, and we would say like, all right, you can see the thing. We wrote this thing that shows you the map of what's happening. Now watch us just chop this line to death in the middle of processing. Now watch the system self-heal, spin up a new instance, realize it failed, re-ingest that same piece of data, and continue operating. The usefulness of that compared to a traditional application where The app failed. What do? Everything stops. We call the admin. If the admin doesn't know, we call the specialist. And then they have to come in if they're not there. Like, we just saved hours, like a 5-hour triage time just to do something as simple as restand up an ingest pipeline.
And it cost you 22 cents.
It was amazing. It was some of the cool, like I have taken that exact same code base idea, and every project I ever ran at Deloitte, we started with that as the baseline of this is the right way to build an application.
Yeah.
We do what this guy did. And it was me and just one other guy who architected that solution. And I still think it's rock solid to this day.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to what we were just talking about, streamlining and providing consistency across the board.
Yeah.
And again, especially in these situations where that real-time data is important. So
Yeah, maybe on that, just a question for you now that you're doing it for yourself instead of for a company. One of the things I noticed, and I kind of caught on to this when I went to the Google conference, some of the costs, and I'm going to say it in a weird way because I don't mean this in a derogatory way. It's meant to support clients, but some of the cost is masked by subsidies that the large companies give for you to use their models, their platform. And then in doing that, as long as you're meeting these quotas of actually sending out stuff to client and actually doing client deliverables, you will continue to see those. But the instant you try to back out of that some way, shape, or form, you're going to see the rise in costs again. And I'm always concerned that some things like that, and that's the one instance I know. There's probably others, but I'm always concerned that as we start to look at cloud costs, that we don't know the fine print. And I'm, from your perspective as now an entrepreneur starting your own business, is that something you're looking at early on to make sure that we're doing it right?
Yeah, I'm extremely cautious about my costs for my own business, right? I have an on-prem server at my house, so I run everything local. I lab local. I actually did the math last week. I was like, if I were to migrate my entire lab stack to like AWS example, how much would it cost me per month? And I calculated my power bill because I was like, power in Colorado is like 13 cents a kilowatt hour or whatever. And that's the average hourly rate over a 24-hour period. My server has two 1.2 kilowatt hour power supplies, but it usually only uses 233 to 300 watts. So I mathed out my actual power bill. I was like, your power bill is $24.75 a month on average because of your server. If you migrated just your data, not even the compute, to the cloud, your bill would be $1,500 a month. And then if we did $1,500 a month, and then if we did comparable compute, your bill would be $4,000 a month. And I was like, huh. And it was like, but if you streamlined, like really streamlined and used slower tier storage and stuff, we could probably do it for $570. And I was like,
lucky you, from 24 to 570.
my entire server was only $950 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane, right?
yeah.
Well, that's my concern, and I know it should be the concern of client side too. Is at least be cautious about it, thoughtful of it, because sometimes the words in the in bill doesn't match up, and we try to put out this like, hey, you're going to have a credit card on file, and you're going to have a limit, so you'll be able to control it. But if I'm in the middle of an operation and I need that image, and I've already got my limit,
what do you do? News. You just pay, and that is. It is really hard to set proper guardrails around cloud compute in a meaningful way, especially when you're worried about mission. Because even with AI, if you run out of tokens in the middle of a prompt, it just stops. The prompt.
Yep.
It doesn't say insert credit card. It'll stop it, and then it'll say you can insert your credit card and I can redo it.
Yeah.
But you're just SOL, and the same thing applies to cloud compute. If you build the guardrails in any intelligent way, you're gonna hit them.
So it's not like the old video games where it pop up, after you lose all your lives and say, "Hey, drop
insert another quarter." You got 3 seconds.
You got 10 seconds, so you can start where you left off.
Pretty much, yeah.
We got a quarter.
Deck the guy next to you or grab a quarter off.
Guy on the mission floor.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. I just died. Throw in another quarter.
But But I mean, so I mean, in all honesty, that's one of my concerns as we start to talk about cloud compute with other folks. That I want to make sure that when I'm representing it, I represent it appropriately. But I don't think I always have the full picture. So it's very difficult for me to give a level of confidence talking to a client to say, yep, 100%, you need to go with AWS because this and this and this. Because in reality, if you tell me it's a batch processing versus persistent connection data, that is two different things, and the amount of dollars and cents that follow it are two different things. So, yeah, it's
just some have extra quarters.
Yeah, just bring some
Bring
a roll of quarters.
So, Bryan, architecting an in-orbit cybersecurity intrusion detection system, Silent Shield, for Deloitte satellite was a major milestone. What unique challenges come with building an intrusion detection system for an asset orbiting miles above Earth compared to a ground-based server? I need to get some drink.
It's architecting things for space is entirely different than architecting things for ground. You would think it'd be similar, but you have to find a satellite manufacturer. The satellite manufacturer doesn't want you to actually know how it works because they're going to be afraid that you're going to call their baby ugly. So you're working blind. This thing is a black box. It gives you inputs, it gives you outputs. You don't actually know what they mean, but you can see them all. So it turns into a game where you have to reverse engineer how the componentry actually communicates. And once you understand the language that it uses, the common things that you see, the patterns, then you can start building cyber protections into it. But protections might even be too forward of a word. You build monitoring tools.
Yep.
You can't, like terrestrial IT, we do this a lot. You install an ACAS instance into your government network and you put it on learn mode.
Yep.
It has to sit there on learn mode for quite a while.
At least a week.
Right? I was doing work at one of the ground stations and I said, put it in learn mode, only learn mode. The next day I showed up and they said, you broke the entire network. And I said, I what? And they said, we did learn and implement, just like you said. And I was like, and guess what? Everything's a threat when you put it on learn and implement. So broke the entire test network. It was not my fault. There was a lot of arguing. The same rules apply to space systems. You have to learn. And then you have to remember that every satellite is bespoke. You can buy two satellites from the same vendor, but if they have a different purpose, they communicate differently.
Yep.
They don't reuse command and control because, well, this one has a camera and this one has an RF collection capability. So why would they talk the same language? So you have to find commonalities between all these things to try to build a monitoring capability. Yep. The hardest part of Silent Shield was, what is it doing? What is this satellite actually doing?
Yeah.
And once we could build the nominal operational profile of the satellite, then we were able to advance into, what if I poke it here? Well, it's monitoring. And then I trained it that that's a bad thing. So we would utilize the Sparta framework. The aerospace guys built it. It's like MITRE ATT&CK for space.
Yep.
And we would build cyber scenarios that mimicked real world events from Sparta. And we would attack the satellite in new and unique ways, getting more and more dangerous as we went. And then we would build static detections against those to start. Well, static detections, you can do quite a bit, but you're rebuilding them for every satellite. Then we got into doing small machine learning models. So extremely narrow context window machine learning capabilities that would just monitor the entire platform. Every day the satellite communicates with the radio, talking to this ground station at this time, give or take a few minutes. It does this every day. It does this every day. These are station keeping things. Once you build that pattern, it gets kind of obvious when something outside of the norm occurs.
Yep.
So you just have to kind of hope that you started building the pattern before anything bad occurred. Otherwise, you're just training the bad thing too.
Yeah, and maybe to kind of spin it from the terrestrial to the space a little bit. I mean, a lot of people think that we roll up there and we've got a just network monitoring. We watch packet traffic on the network, and then it's so much more than that because you've got to look at. Let's talk about temperatures. You know, an abnormal change in temperature could represent a cyber attack that has gotten into the electrical and caused it to overheat. Fuel expenditures. If you're abnormally expending fuel out of what is normal for an in-track or a radial burn, then you start to notice this, and that pattern of life, like you described, is something really important to get. But I think people always get locked in when you say cyber, and we're looking at packet traffic. That's it. You got IP. Whether it's HTTP or some other type of protocol attaching to the thing and watching that. That's one story. But when we're talking about physical assets, there are other things to monitor. And a good example of how this is possible, because I don't think I won't share if I did know and I don't know, so that makes it really easy. But if you look at Stuxnet was a great example of a cyber attack that affected a physical component to the point that it did degradation on that asset. And in particular, Stuxnet, for those who are not familiar, it's a cyber attack on the centrifuges of the Iranian reactors, and it caused them to spin up, spin down in an abnormal cycle such that it degraded their lifespan of those centrifuges. So, successful cyber attack attacking a physical component of their IT system. And that could be the same thing for a satellite, these multi-million dollars and maybe in some cases $1 billion assets. If you are putting in something that overheats it and causes components to degrade, you're not going to go run up there and throw a new wire on it or a battery in it real quick until we get to this on-orbit repair type of things. But as of right now, it just dies. It dies earlier.
So what's interesting, Brian, is, but bring it back to the two, both the regular network and then, dealing with satellites, what you said, with the red team, one of the things we stated, I'm going to state religiously after every, outbrief, hey, well, how can we, what can we do? Well, protection is preferred. We'd love to have that, but monitoring is a must, and trying to get leadership to understand that, because they want a quick fix if they don't understand it. And, to like Phil's point, looking for those anomalies. And that's how simply I would tell people. I said, you have the information, you're not going through it. You're wanting something magic, or you're wanting to see that big spike. And, literally during a live attack one time, I went to NCDoc, sat there with the operator, said, are you seeing anything? No. I said, what about, well, that's low level stuff. I'm not paying attention to that. And I said, well, guess, and then they're looking at me going, and I'm going, exactly, start paying attention to that. But to Phil's point, if I really, part of things, we were taught, work with CIA and everything else is, and like the exercises we do, everybody would get mad and be like, well, you didn't do this. Well, I did do that. Well, no, you didn't. Well, I did. I just didn't do it where I blew my wad so you know about it, because here's reality. If I have access, I don't want you to know. So I'm going to do those little degradations, things like that. How can I pull the data back? I might sit there and only pull, a little bit of data once a week, things like that. And people need to understand, again, that's where the monitoring comes in, not just the live monitoring, but I think to your point too, the follow-up of having the guys go back and look through the logs real quick and double check to see what other patterns are going on or what has changed, outside the norm. And it's a lot of work. I understand it's frustrating, but that's the part I think people are still lacking, is they don't see that as the sexy part. They want that what's happening in front of me part. So.
But that's where AI can be powerful, though.
Exactly.
It can take over the network monitoring aspect and do it in seconds, vice the hours somebody would go through logs or looking through email traffic because you got an alert. Into you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Snort. I remember all those. Splunk, sorry. All right. Hey, so kind of a little bit of a different take on this one. You looked at, you built out the architectures mentally for this capability, and then you translated that into code that Netta and Josh kind of took over from you. How did you effectively bridge that gap between the architecture side and the line-by-line operational code?
Yeah, this kind of goes back to earlier. I didn't tell them what to do.
Fair.
My form of leading the team was, let's sit down together, let's be inspired on what we think the future direction should be as a unit, so that we all have a shared vision at what we're marching towards. And then it turned into me going, I don't actually care how you get from A to B.
Yep.
I just care that you get from A to B. Yeah. And if you get stuck anywhere in route from A to B, you tell me, and whatever that blocker is, I'm going to get rid of it. And the first blocker was so obvious that I should have seen it coming a mile away.
If you say Phil Peterson, I'm going to get pissed at you.
Corporate computers don't let you do development.
Yeah.
There's so many permissions problems. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
So the first thing we did was buy hardware.
Fair.
do it on this. This is more reflective of the environment anyway. We bought space grade compute that matched the exact compute we were going to work with. Here it is. This is the actual satellite compute. This is what we're going to develop on because this is A, realistic, and B, has no security controls whatsoever because it perfectly matches the operational environment.
Was
So
that
yeah,
was
that's
that
how
the
we
lab
did.
environment you set up?
Yeah. So we had the lab in Colorado Springs at the time, since moved, but I think we had two effective flat sats, one CubeSat, other CubeSat components, two additional space compute motherboards. Yeah, we had all the whole gamut, and it was wired together in a mix of CAN and Ethernet and over breadboards.
Yeah,
It was fantastic.
yeah. And I'll be clear, Josh and Ned are wicked smart people, so it doesn't surprise me you'd have to tell them anything. It's like,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do. Vision. Okay? Tick, 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 tick,
Yep.
tick.
Yep. It was like whiteboard. I want this box to connect to that box,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, that is the way it should function. If you take the handcuffs off the developers and don't give them so many guidelines and principles by which to build, their creativity can give you something greater, most likely, than what you would have thought of as the external guy that doesn't do the coding. So, yeah, I think that's a win-win, honestly.
Yeah. Trust the people.
Yep.
People do good work when you trust them.
Always. Yeah. Hey, so your new company, Null-SAT, takes dead or dying satellites, turns them into operational testing ranges. Where did the inspiration for the space recycling concept come from?
Funny enough, it came from the fact that when we were trying to do Silent Shield, no one would let us test our stuff in space on their assets. And it really irritated me. And it bugged me so bad that I was talking to one of my co-founders about it. And I was like, we should do this. And then there was some government guys around when we were talking about it, and they were like, we will fund that. And magically a company was born. And it's surprisingly not difficult to talk to space operators today that, if you have a 25-year-old geostationary satellite it's about to run out of fuel, its batteries are failing, right? Let's say, and it's no longer making them as much money as it costs them to operate. They
Yeah.
are motivated to get rid of that asset. It's just a question of, can you raise the capital to buy it? Do you build partnerships with them to operate it yourself? What do you do?
Yeah.
So the null-sat concept came from, we should take these satellites that are, at 20% capacity and losing money every month, or 30% capacity losing money, or not even doing anything. We'll take dead things
Yep.
and let's reuse them for new purposes that advance the space ecosystem. Maybe it advances laser targeting pods on an F-15, shooting at a LEO asset. Maybe it enhances a small business that's doing a cyber capability, and they need a place to test their cyber capability. I want to advance the state of the possible here, and that's what null-sat's purpose is.
Hey, describe dead, because I think it's worth talking about that, because I think when some people think about dead assets, they think unusable. But I don't think that's the exact way that you're perceiving it. And I know it's not, but maybe in your words, describe that to people.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll use geo as the easy example. When a geo asset enters the end of its life, we do what's called a graveyard orbit. So we use its remaining fuel, we push it 300 kilometers higher to basically, it's just about 40,000 kilometers away from Earth. And then we disconnect the batteries. Well, solar panels still work even without batteries. So just because you disconnected the battery doesn't mean the satellite is dead per se. It just doesn't have any fuel to stay in place anymore, and it doesn't have batteries to work when it's outside of the sunlight. But as long as it's in the sunlight, it's still fully accessible as it drifts maybe 1 to 2 degrees per day around the Earth. So that satellite can be resurrected and operationalized as long as it's in the sunlight. So you have to be careful, certain things that you do, like if you try to do a firmware upgrade and then it loses sunlight in the middle of a firmware upgrade, you just made a brick. But if you're testing small applications inside of what minimal compute is going to exist, I mean, like you got to fit in 32 megabytes of RAM, right? With maybe 600 megahertz of processor if you're lucky.
Yeah.
You can do it and it's going to work. And there's no one losing access to the satellite because you're doing this, because the satellite was already declared dead. It's
Right.
been activated. So you're just taking advantage of latent capacity that still functions. It just didn't function good enough to meet its mission parameter.
Yep.
So how much, I mean, I know it's probably going to be different, again, based on position, satellite, and everything else, but what would you say a reasonable time frame would be to work with it during that time?
To work with it, well, it depends on the drift. So there's some satellites that once they drift over like the Pacific,
Yeah,
there's not really good ground station access over there
Yeah.
that's easily commercially accessible until they get all the way over to like to Japan, basically.
gotcha.
So it depends on where it is, and then you'll get some weird blackout periods because of
Yep,
sunlight. So you lose like 90 days a year of functionality from sunlight, and probably about another 30 days a year from just you have no ground connectivity. So it turns into like this game of you have to track your orbit very carefully and plan for
gotcha.
it for Juno. Now, Leo, totally different story, right? There's companies that'll let you do experimentation on their satellites. So the business model there is you sell all your first year capacity and your manufacturing costs so that you've made all your money in year one.
Yep.
Year 2 to 4, whatever, depending on your orbit, is just cherry on top money. But if you're not at capacity, you're still paying for ops, you're losing money.
Yep.
Those satellites touch ground stations every 90 minutes.
Gotcha.
And you can actually leverage, there's an open source ground station segment called SatNogs, and you can push command and control through an open source ground infrastructure, just like that. And the sun synchronous orbit stuff is really easy to get with SatNogs because it covers a lot of their different ground stations. So it just depends on the orbit, if the asset's alive, if the asset is, yeah, and what kind of compute it's got, what kind
Gotcha.
of sensor it's got. There's use cases for every single sensor that most people just don't think about.
Yeah, hey, speaking about sensors, I was kind of going to ask you that question as well. Is the you're not only buying the asset just to fly around the Earth, you're buying the sensor that's on board, whether it's an imagery sensor or an RF sensor. I don't know what else you're looking at, but what is that causing for you as a company to think about and have to deal with internally, or are you still just using that as a availability of a sensor for somebody that wants to procure the data portion of that?
Yeah, right now it falls under the Chinese menu of services that we can provide and not us actively using those capabilities.
Gotcha.
Partly that's because I don't want to incur the cost of additional command and control timing and additional data storage on the ground, or potentially licensing for spectrum if it's doing like RF transmission
Yep.
and receiving.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was trying to figure out, as a three-person company, that's something you got to be considerate of in your business model about how much you willing to take on. And I am, we won't have to go down this rabbit hole, but once you start getting assets from somebody like an Enro or an NGA, I'm curious what kind of, and we don't need to talk about it, but what kind of hurdles does that cause with the specific sensors that are there? Because I would think those are more proprietary, and probably still needing to be protected over some period of time. But anyway, we'll hold that one in our back pocket for when we get to the skiff.
Yeah. Luckily, the government uses those satellites until they actually die.
Yeah, that's right.
Good.
Those ones don't usually get handed over.
Good.
Well, we won't talk about some other things.
So transferring control of these assets relieves previous owners of liability and costs while providing a live environment for cyber and RF vulnerability testing and more. How do you pitch this value proposition to satellite operators who might be hesitant about transferring control?
Yeah. The trick there was, how do you actually transfer the liability? That was a huge concern of ours. We talked to Space Bureau for FCC. We talked to State Department, space people. We talked to everyone that had anything legal understanding in the DC area of how space liability works. And interestingly enough, the person who's liable is not a person, it's the entire country that has the license and ownership of the radio of the quote unquote space station. If it has a radio, it is a space station. So we had to learn how that rule worked and communicate with them that we want to take these assets and we want to put them under our umbrella of ownership.
Yep.
And take away, let's say, 99% of the liability from the existing owner and leave 1% with them that we can leave with whatever licensable asset there is, so that we don't have to go through the timely public comment period and paying for new spectrum and all that stuff if you keep it US based. So convincing them that their liability just went down by 99% on a thing that might still be worth $50 million is pretty reasonable. And then you establish some partnerships with it so that they can help you continue to operate it. Or if they don't want to operate it, there's a lot of small businesses that say that they can do command and control and automated tasking of satellites, but a lot of them don't get the opportunity to test their capability. It's just another opportunity for me to help a new small business that says they want to do a thing. I will give you the keys to the car.
Yep.
Let's see how you drive. And then if you drive it well, I will help you with the proper communications to like the right government entities to actually make it successful.
Yeah. Yeah, and fundamentally, you just described one of the things that's a little bit wrong with the way we're, and I'll speak to government contracting side, is that we spend so much time focused on the bigs because they have capabilities, they've got the name, they've got the, it lowers my risk because I know you. But what we're missing right now is that small business picture and the fact that they could do it maybe more efficiently, quicker, whatever, I love what you said is, you can be, as a small business, a conduit to another small business and help them get their foot in the door with proof of concepts. Because I think that's the way the model has changed from what I've seen is that no longer is the government coming to you and saying, hey, I want this, here's all my requirements, blah, blah, blah. There is still a mechanism by which they do that. But now they're saying, I just need this capability. And then they're leaving it in the hands of the small businesses, even the largest, to design the capability, to be innovative around that and try to deliver that way. And I think the flexibility and the dynamic nature of a small business is, and we've described it a little bit with the Deloitte, you can move faster. You don't have the same guardrails. You can make decisions, move, and the only problem becomes, you're bearing the costs up front before you get the contract sometimes. But yeah, I love it.
So it comes to the concept you were talking about, Brian. I think Phil and I work this way too, is left to right boundaries. Here's my vision. Go.
Yeah.
Let them take it, go. Let them focus on it and everything else.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I to this day, I still surround myself with people that are better than me at something because I want to learn from them. And there's things that I can always teach them. And like, as long as we're all learning and we're making cool shit together, it's going to be great.
Yep.
And that's what I'm here for.
So when you run to the opposite where that's not happening, how do you handle that? And here's what I'm asking. I'm asking that so I can have that discussion with Phil later.
If we're not learning, and I've told this to every person that has been my quote unquote manager for the last like 5 jobs. I will tell you when I'm unhappy. I will tell you when I'm not learning. And if you do not change the environment, I will change my environment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Simple. Yeah. I'm here to do cool things. I'm here to learn something new. I don't want to be the master of a single capability. I don't want to be a mile deep and an inch wide.
Exactly.
I want to be a mile wide and like 10 to 20 feet deep in every topic with the occasional like really deep.
Yeah.
I want to know a lot about everything because I'm just a curious individual.
I gotcha. But that's more the managerial perspective versus, then having the, and I'm going to use IT guys who are like, well, you need to know all this. No, that's what I got you for. If I need to know it, I don't need you, so.
Yep. Very true. Very true.
That's kind of why I fired Brian.
So. Did he fire you? Because Phil, I'm firing you as a friend.
I got fired again.
First, so I can steal all your assets before you go, so I can make sure they're not.
Here's my ID, my computer. Hey, so let's get back to the company a little bit. Null-SAT's a lean 3-person company right now, and you're doing some heavy lifting for agencies like DARPA and Space Development Agency. What does the day-to-day operation look like at this scale, and what is your vision for the company's growth?
Yeah, today it operates in the notebook.
Yes.
Everything is inside of the notebook. Haven't had to use too many pages yet. And then beyond the notebook is the whiteboard of tasking, which is 80% full right now. It's more phone calling than I thought it would be. And then rapid prototyping. The rapid prototyping part is fun for me because I get to sit here on the laptop and go, all right, they care about swarms of satellites. How do I demonstrate swarms of satellites in a realistic way? Do I use Kerbal Space Program? I don't have money for orbital like STK, so I can also just use NAS3 with 42 from NASA, and that's flight representative and transferable. And I can build scenarios that I can just hand over as deliverables. That's the best way to do this because it's all open source, it's low lift, and
Yep.
I'm using existing government off-the-shelf technologies that are open sourced. Like it just turns into me basically playing a game of I talk to them like I would to you, Phil, about I have this really cool idea. You said you have this problem.
Yep.
Here's how I think we could tackle this in a very cost-effective way. I will prototype it over the weekend and I'll show it to you next week. And that generally goes over pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. Zero cost effort to get the capability visible to somebody. Yeah. It's strange. I mean, it costs.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I think, a lot of people forget is we start thinking about it as I need dollars in my hand to do something, but sometimes you got to flip that philosophy. You got to invest in yourself to show, not tell. And
Yep.
it's something I've kind of stood on for a very long time and now I hear parroted throughout a lot of places. It's like, show me something first, and then we'll talk about how we can get it into production. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's a good lesson for other engineers because not only am I learning something new, I'm having fun doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
I'm becoming a more effective sales engineer
Yeah.
and a more effective engineer, and I get to inspire my clients. Like, if we enabled more of our engineers in these large, factories of people to just be creative, go try something new. You think there's a problem, go solve it instead of, the mother may I get $200,000 to build my prototype. Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that would, help with culture in a lot of companies. And I mean, I have a lot of goals for hiring, a mix of young talent, like just out of college people because I'm poor, and at the same time, like people that know things that are like the graybeards that know more than me because I want to keep my learning journey going.
Yeah.
And I think if I can build that right ecosystem, it would be just like that Silent Shield team. I mean, I
Yeah.
built that team from three of us to 30 something of us over a couple of years, and there's not a person on that team that I don't trust to go execute a thing, and it's not even my team anymore,
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
And I think that's just I thought that was a great team, and I hope they're doing well because I only hear from them occasionally. But like, I want to recreate that kind of environment wherever I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know somebody, but I mean, just
See, here he goes. So, I mean, Brian, essentially, the other aspect, naturally you're expanding your own toolbox, creating that environment. And again, it might be something that doesn't pay off right then. It might be years down the road, especially as you go into a new area. Wow, I've already done that. Or, hey, I already got a fix. Or, I got an idea how to get ahead of that. So kind of sounds like you got a lot, you enjoy problem solving. So you built a career of leaning into problems other view as too difficult. I really need something to drink. How do you evaluate a problem to decide if it's worth taking on or not? Which seems to be a typical day-to-day or was a day-to-day thing for me, and I'm sure Phil, as a manager in general, every day, everyone, so can't do that. Challenge accepted. So
Yeah. I mean, there are challenges that sometimes I don't take on. My philosophy on what I do and what I don't do is based on what I believe, right? So if I believe this thing is worth doing, I'm going to give it my all. If I believe there's a purpose to what the capability is, like does the picture come together in my head as an operational capability that advances something or protects something, someone, right? There has to be, I'm doing it for something. If you don't give me the full story of what I'm doing, if you just tell me build this unit because you need to build a unit, I'm going to tell you no. I need the full story to understand the purpose of what I'm doing. I feel like my fuel is inspiration. And if you can inspire me that your vision for the final product is something that I'm going to believe in, I'm in. I'm going to do it. We're going to do it together. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be something we can all be proud of. So
yeah.
that's how I operate.
gotcha. No, that's perfect. So for young hackers or engineers, sitting in a bedroom tinkering right now, or anybody in the future with old hardware like you once did, the dumpster diving, what's the best path to making a real impact in national security of space cyber?
Ooh. Don't let things like your education or like lack of specific targeted education get in the way of taking a chance. Just because you're not qualified on paper to do something doesn't mean you're actually not qualified to do it.
Right.
I have no formal education in space systems engineering, flight operations, mission planning or architecture, any of that stuff. I have a degree in network engineering, a degree in business, and another degree in business because I learned young on that you can be as smart as you want, but if you can't communicate that by any means, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So I think take chances. Like do what you want to do. And if you think you're inspired by it, you should do it because you'll probably be better at it than someone who's not inspired.
Gotcha.
Yep. No, that's a good point. And it's one of the things I've always said, and maybe spinning it a little bit, that when you're elevating your mind with being enabled and empowered to do things that you find exciting, you're going to be the best employee. When we start losing that spark and that heart behind it, you may as well move on. So,
Yep. I agree. So that was a little bit of a legacy, but I'm going to add another question real quick for you for your personal legacy. I mean, you have a child, and everything else, but 25 years down the road from now, what do you want people to, when they think of you, and your child, what do you want them to remember? Or hopefully go, hey, this is what I left behind, or hey, this is the good I did, or this is the bad I did, or yeah, I'm the guy who's in jail now because I attacked the satellites and took over, and nobody knew what was going on. Hope that doesn't happen, but
I want Null-SAT to own more pieces of space debris, operational or not, than Elon Musk. And I want everyone to know that I did it. Not because of me needing to be the best at something, but just to say, suck it, Elon Musk.
yes.
You lost to Bryan Torielli and his small ragtag team. And I don't care if it's nuts and bolts. I think it would just be so cool to be like Elon up there with, oh, I got 100,000 satellites, and me go, I have 800,000 pieces in space.
yeah.
You have to negotiate with me before you can launch anything in that orbit.
I own everything that China blew up into the sky with their ASAT attack.
And
Sir, he wants to be the dumpster diver of space.
I do. I really do. And for my daughter, I hope that she finds something as inspiring as I have with space for herself. Now I'm trying to influence her into thinking space is the coolest thing ever. I'll be
Gotcha.
very honest here. Like I'm about to probably start volunteering for the Space Foundation because I listened to a course and I was so into it that the guy offered me a job. Like I think space is just so cool, and I hope my daughter finds space as cool as I do. And I hope someday she does something that I can't even fathom that would just blow my mind when I'm an old man drinking whiskey.
Or she picks up your legacy and does what you want to do. So
If she does, I'm gonna buy her some Dickies that say like Space Trash Collection or something, and she's gonna rock those.
gotcha. So Bryan, thank you for coming on this podcast with us. It was great to get to hear your rise from the dumpster, and within the Rebel Alliance. That time. Phil's time. Phil, you get one serious question not related to the episode thing. Go.
Okay, so I didn't write this anywhere in our script, but I wanted to talk about it because you were probably one of the favorite people I have to do this with. Let's talk about whiskey.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Tell me anything and everything, and then we'll just go from there.
All right. So I'm sad that the Canadians are boycotting American products, especially whiskey. But I'm also really happy that they're boycotting whiskey because I can now buy Weller 12 on the shelf at MSRP, and I can drink it whenever I feel like it now instead of it being a special occasion $300 bottle. Now
That's
it's
what you gave me when I
$57.
came over. That's right.
Oh my God. I just bought 2 bottles the other day. I'm planning a trip to Scotland in the near future so I can go drink a bunch. And shout out to all the guys I hang out with at the Air Force 10 cap group because we do whiskey tastings and God, those get a little out of control, but they're absolutely fantastic. And I have found so many new flavors drinking with those guys.
What's your go-to? Besides what?
Penelope weeded for daily. It's super affordable. It's like $39, $34. It's weeded, and I like weeded bourbons more than anything else. It's absolutely fantastic. And the whole Penelope lineup's really good, but the weeded is just the best bang for the buck you can find.
So we just went to a distillery not too long ago, Casey Jones, and they had the weeded, and you're not wrong. I was really surprised. It had this warm, rich flavor to it. I was ecstatic about it, and that was the first time I think I had a weeded bourbon, so it was really cool. But all right, so
Yeah.
hey, I'll give you $1,000. What's your bottle?
If you gave me $1,000,
I
I
don't
would
know.
go
You tell me.
to
What's the high
I
end?
would go to I would go to Oban. I would go to
Oh,
Scotland, go to Oban Distillery, and I already have the young Teddy. I would buy the current Teddy and the old Teddy. So it's a three-generation family of master distillers at Oban.
yeah.
And so the grandfather, he still distills at times, and you can get a special bottle of what they call the Old Teddy, which is his bottle, and he'll sign it for you. They're like 300 euros a bottle, but they never make more than like 450 of them.
Oh,
So you
wow.
want that. And then the current Teddy, being the current father who works there, he's the master distiller today. He makes an amazing bottle I've had samples of, but they didn't have any bottles for me to buy that were new. But I own the young Teddy, so I want to complete my collection. And then someday when I make it big, I will crack open these bottles and drink them. But until then, I have not cracked the young Teddy.
For people that are not exposed to the scotches or the bourbons, give me your top five. Something they would
Um,
try.
yeah, Weller 12, 1792's 12 year. Um, oh, for the Scotch side, it's one of the base ingredients to Johnny Walker Blue. But they have a 2022 special year bottle. It's the oh crap, it's a lady, but it looks like Johnny Walker, but it's a lady. Um, Fantastic bottle. Uh, Eagle Rare is always good for like a daily drinker. And then I would go with the Penelope Weeded. It's just too cheap to be as good as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. 1792. I got one of the bonded bottles. I haven't cracked it open yet, but I'm looking forward to that one.
I just found the sweet wheat, but I usually like the 12 year. The sweet wheat was good though too.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well, that was my super serious question today.
super serious.
I wanted to talk about alcohol with somebody that shared my passion. Hey, Brian, I
Yeah.
appreciate it, man. On that note, it's time to close up shop. It's been great to dig into your story. Say hey to the family for us and let us know when it's time to do Enza's story. You know, we can do that.
Yeah.
We'll get her
Thank you
on.
so much, guys.
Hey,
This was
Brian,
awesome.
it was good meeting you, and I'm glad you patronized Phil so he could stick it to Deloitte a little bit and everything else. So
I'm not sticking it to Deloitte.
whatever.
Talking to the black sheep over here. You know, you never know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're gonna get me fired, Brian.
Right.
All
Plutonium.
right, brother. We'll talk later.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Whoa, la, 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 la. Yeah. Okay, I'm good. Hey, so finished up Brian just now. It was a good episode. Really techie nerdy, and I kind of get giddy. And I know you could see this smile on my face the whole time.
Well, I mean, again, you ever made the comment through there, you just didn't shut up. So I knew you were in a happy land.
I was in my little happy
to make
space.
fun of it. I mean, here's the plus factor. At least you weren't crumping the episode.
I almost did. We were talking about so much tech. I was like, oh, I remember what it's like to be cool.
Oh my God, I would really mess with you this. Phil's trying over IT.
Whatever. It's meaningful to me.
Just my packets.
But no, it was good to see you, Brian. I mean, we've known each other, I guess, for better part of 4 years, I suppose, or right around 4 years. Good to see that he's taken a lot of the things that he grew up with, turned them into something that is meaningful to him, and he's got the excitement still to do it. I know it meant traversing a company that he worked with and then probably wasn't supported with in the end, but that's the nature of the beast. But it actually culminated in him being an entrepreneur and starting his own business. So, kudos on him for having the guts to do that, for one, because it's not easy. But I think when you have the motivation, you feel empowered. And the timing is right, frankly, because I think the timing was right for him to ride the market ask around satellites and using them to do something like continued good, I guess, if you will.
No, I think it's first of all very unique. Taking advantage of the situation in a good way, because again, those resources don't exist for the people.
Yep.
We at this point, most people should understand IT and vulnerability just at the network level and everything else. Now it's the same thing applied to space. He ran down all the things. Was built, and as you highlighted, built with security not in mind. Same thing, we did with basic. We sent basic IT across the board. He's what I also liked is, he's empowering his people to do it. I think he definitely, realizes he's more at that manager level, and he's looking at the big picture, looking at that vision, trying to do things, and communicate that out, willing to help and support people across the board. But just the parallels of what IT has gone through. Now he's dealing with that in space to even, hey, space isn't really mapped out or anything else.
Right.
And again, here's a good story. Came from humble beginnings to begin with. So
yeah, Wisconsin. Yeah, I can't stop saying it. Yeah, no, it's and probably for our audience, it's pretty much a unique topic for a lot of people, because when we think about space, we don't really consider it the way that Bryan and I have dealt with it. We're talking about using the assets up there for data, sensors that exist to take images, RF collection, things like that.
Everything I'm accustomed to.
Yeah. And doing that, I mean, starts to open people's eyes to what's going on up there, and maybe starts to shape what they think of as a threat environment. And that's why we started looking at, at a certain point, and I'll say it from the DoD's perspective, we identified cyber as a threat domain, and we started adjusting how we functioned with respect to our cyber posture, if you will. That's, your time at NIOC was spent hugely around fixing those cyber postures. And now we're starting to see it in space, because we haven't a fully defined ownership over space. I mean, I don't think we ever will, honestly. It's going to be kind of one of those things.
To be honest with you, it's like IT still.
Yeah, frankly it is.
I mean, there's no geographical, now it encompasses everything.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we'll see people like, and I'll say it, China, Russia, claiming territorial airspace all the way up to infinity, and saying that's where I can fly my satellites. You can't fly your satellites. But I don't think it's as easy when you're talking about 36,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface to do that. It's not an airport. I'm not worried about a collision of an aircraft. So.
It's not, hey, I have off the coast, this is,
economic exclusion zones.
Exactly, like that, all that. So they don't have that.
Yep.
So, no, fully agree there.
Technically, they do. I mean, if you really think about it, geography matters. The land mass matters underneath. They could claim that's there, but is it recognized? That's going to be the problem.
I got you. So, like air rights.
They extend it up to the...
copy. But, when you were saying, we keep on saying space, it's funny because, there's a lot of movies and TV shows, but unfortunately, I think Star Trek is the simplest one. Space. Final frontier. Yeah, exactly. What is it going where no man's gone?
Captain's dog. No, but that's what I wanted kind of to pull out of Bryan, was really to let people understand that, the people that are functioning in the space environment in the industry side, this is what they look at day to day. They think about operations up there. How can we, not just provide internet, not just provide GPS, but if you think about the DoD perspective, how can we protect assets from threats that exist up there? Because you're really not going to stop a satellite that's traveling, 24,000 miles an hour in low Earth orbit. You're not going to be able to stop them, shoot them out of there, and say, "Oh, you crossed over our boundaries." So we're going to get people doing nefarious things, and we got to be able to do things to counter that. And if those nefarious things consist of things like getting into a proximity to our satellites to do something bad, like insert a track, RF jam, something like that, then we've got to be prepared to do something like a radio burn to extend some distance between us. those type of things need to be considered. And that's where Brian's functioned for quite some time, thinking about that operational side of space and how we get past this. And his history kind of fits all that with NRO, NGA, NASIC, all those things.
No, over the years, like I said, he's had numerous opportunities. He sees those, and he's still looking at opportunities, not just that's not my job. What he's really looking for is, he wants an environment where he can do what's right without being impacted by, probably the most part, bureaucracy and everything else. And opening that up for others to do the same thing, of course, legal and all that other stuff. So, he's balancing out the practicality, technological approach while looking at, the legal side, protection side, and everything else. But, hey, here's an area that has not, has not been mapped out. We don't know what we can and can't do. Now there's a trade-off with that, too, because doing all this could open up more of, it is capable to do that, and everything else. I think we could possibly see in our lifetime where we start seeing more, probably some targeted things, again, like we see in the movies at the, with satellites and everything else. More and more GPS. Most of the ship's navigation, VMS and all that now is all through that, it's a scary thing, if I can, especially if you're navigating the sea, if I can take your picture away.
It's kind of the genesis of why I got excited about it, because obviously you and I being in the Navy, if we talk about AIS spoofing as a very simple thing, that is something that can cause irreparable damage if we allow something to happen that we didn't recognize, couldn't track, whatever. Or we, it's simple things. Let's talk about what's going on in Iran right now. Mm-hmm. We're unable to identify a ship by its appropriate ownership because it's spoofing its AIS, and somehow we let it get through the blockade. Or let's ignore the blockade and what's going on. If we're unable to do that, it's possible that there's weapons that are getting delivered to a country that shouldn't be getting them. Things like that happen. So space has become our buddy for being able to do things that we wouldn't be able to do normally on just a terrestrial level. Sensor technology is amazing these days, and we won't go too deep into that because there's some really cool shit out there. But I implore maybe the audience to go read some things about space and learn something different, because I think we get locked into this. I got my internet, good. That's what space does for me. I got Elon Musk out there putting up Starlink.
That's an interesting thing, and we did discuss on this episode, but we discussed it, pre-episode in our general discussion. With that, things are getting cheaper too. True. So this is going to be more impactful for people down the road. Now, for what he's doing, one of the things that I also thought about afterwards was, he's going, hey, we're getting these satellites, they're dead, but there's still functioning and everything else. Solar, but he goes, we might not understand the software, so we have to get in there and reverse engineering. I'm saying that because the average person's not going to go do that.
Yeah, no.
So it's a time factor, but there's no doubt in my mind that there's other, I'm gonna say nation states who are probably already doing that and digging into that, and so again, it's important to, like he brought up, and again, I'm a firm believer. I would love to, even my house with the cameras. You're seeing all the cameras right now. It's a mechanism to help protect, but it doesn't stop. So you have to monitor, and that's the baseline. Unfortunately, like I used to tell people about cybersecurity, which falls in here, is in a perfect world, I would not need law enforcement. In a perfect world, I would not need cybersecurity because people are going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Well, here's the reality. We know people aren't going to do the right thing. So we have to, unfortunately, do these things, which, from a global aspect, we're talking about, okay, going down on your internet. Now my insurance is rising because all this stuff is happening. And, what is the domino effect after that? So, it's not a real factor in our face right now, but it is very close to being a real factor. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm being very cognizant of watching the market and the way it works with the new AI and AI capabilities, the data centers that exist, because I would like to think that as we start to implement these things, that and then space is enabled by a lot of this, that we start to bring down costs and make things affordable.
Yep.
Which, to your point, brings down insurance costs for launch and things like that. Because I'm a huge proponent or an advocate for small businesses getting their capabilities out there, testing things, delivering things. Because I think we've been so locked into the big companies that exist that we forget that sometimes they're more motivated by the dollar sign than they are the capability. And I know a lot of companies will say this, but it's the impact that matters more. And I've always been a huge advocate of that. Impact matters more to me than the dollars. If you're making $1 more than it costs you, you made a profit. And I get it. That's not a good way to sustain a business because your R&D won't get to the level you want. But it's more of a far left example of how you make a profit but still deliver. And I think once we get over that hurdle of thinking that the big businesses do it right, and frankly, big businesses do harm sometimes because they acquire small companies and then turn them into the big behemoth piece of their company without actually doing anything with their capabilities. That's unfortunate. I've seen it several times already in my time outside the military. I've seen it while I was in the military. We are losing if we don't create that industrial base to be informed by the small companies as much as it is the bigs.
Well, here's reality. I think it's there's a parallel to just in the government side alone. I mean, Bryan was mentioning, he said, hey, I don't care how I get there. And I used to say it a lot, get me to A and B. Well, here, what I heard from a lot of our developers is no. Now, again, this is just Dan speaking. I think a lot of that wasn't not their capability. It was job security for them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if you do that, then I'm not needed. Okay, roger that. Again, getting costs down. What's the right thing to do? How do we protect? So now the other thing I liked was, at the end there, Bryan kind of gave his dream. So I'm going to be the first person to start sending all my trash to Bryan so he can set up the space.
We got a BD line.
So he can own, I don't care if it's a nut or a bull. I want to say I own more things in space than Elon Musk. So.
More than 100,000, I think he said. Cool. Anything else?
No, I think this was a good reflection. Again, hopefully everyone's realizing we're covering the spectrum here. And again, we're looking for other people to, give us some ideas. So please, please, please hit us up. I mean, we're in season 2. We're lining people up, and we're just, looking to continue this, have a good time, and maybe build a studio over at Phil's house if he quit working. And,
I got to quit filling everything up with junk.
You do. Got plenty of room, man.
Yeah. So. All right. Hey, shoot us an email, like Dan said, catalystcoms26@gmail.com. We're always happy to respond, sometimes more than you wanted, actually. So, I'll try to tone it down because Dan says I talk too much.
I do. I'm just joking with it. Today he was a little
asshole. No, but he's a good asshole. Don't worry.
Yeah, according to Kelly, I'm a good asshole. So remember, keep it real.
Yeah, remember, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Later.
Ciao.
A look in time, a trip down the rabbit hole.